Hey, welcome to the Beyond Sunday podcast. Today we are going to be talking about anxiety and depression. So let's get into it.
Woo.
It's so fun.
You are watching the Beyond Sunday podcast. Hey, so we're back again, and if you missed our last episode, make sure to go watch that. But just really quick, I'm Mariah, this is Jenna, and this is our friend Katrina, who is a licensed therapist. We brought her on to give some extra insight to these conversations. And today we're talking about anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
And I think, at least here, we can all agree that, yes, it is a reality in our world, and if you don't struggle with it, there's a good chance that you know somebody who does.
Yes, absolutely.
So even if maybe you're not struggling with it, this episode may still be helpful. So I guess we'll just dive right in. But what does anxiety and depression look like?
So many things.
I know. Okay, she's not throwing easy balls over here. Okay. Sorry. So anxiety and depression. Okay, so let's talk about anxiety first because they look different.
Okay.
Anxiety tends to be more of future fear type stuff, and depression tends to be looking back and staying.
Okay.
back.
Okay.
I
So,
didn't know that.
so yes. So
when you have both, you're looking in both directions.
you're just stuck.
No.
Both is you're very tired.
Oh,
I'm
no.
so sorry. So with anxiety, everybody shows anxiety in a different way.
Okay.
Some people go severe panic. We think of physical anxiety, where again I had mentioned it before in the other video, but sweating, can't breathe very well, shakiness. And there's the list goes on. I'm telling you, like you could feel like you have a disease. Like that's how bad anxiety can get sometimes physically.
Yeah. The franticness of it. It's
Yeah.
just-
I mean, it gets panic attacks get mistaken for heart attacks all the time.
Yeah.
You know, like it can feel very similar, heart pain, all that. Now, if you feel chest pain, please go to the doctor.
Yes.
Okay.
Still
Don't-
call
Arm is
911.
tingling.
Do
It's
not-
not the same thing.
Do not assume that it is anxiety, although it might be.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, there's a lot of that physical stuff.
Yeah.
Some people who have anxiety can just look like they're over functioning. Perfectionism, everything has to be in the right way.
Don't look at Jenna's like shrinking.
Yeah, and that honestly, like so much
Yeah.
of the time with functioning anxiety or even like low grade,
Yeah.
it can look like a good thing.
Yeah.
It can look
You're
like
a really hard worker.
yeah,
You get stuff done.
You're a hard worker. You're on top of it. I can always trust you and rely on you and we're over here like exhausted beyond understanding because we have to meet everyone's expectations and really
pressure's
that's
building.
high functioning anxiety is what that is. Wow. And so, and there's just so many loaded things in both of those.
Yeah.
But that's just some parts of the way anxiety can look. It can look like, and there is some overlap with anxiety and depression, like the sleep issue.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people think that people who are depressed sleep too much, but it's actually they don't sleep enough.
Yeah.
And so they sleep late into the day because they didn't sleep all night. Yeah. That's a misconception with depression. So anxiety can look very similar to that.
Yeah.
You can have a lot of times anxiety hits at night because that's when our thoughts
Running
come
thoughts.
Yeah.
Oh.
You're laying in bed trying to sleep and now everything.
in. Yeah. So anxiety can look like just distress, running thoughts, hamster wheel thoughts. Like it can look like that too.
And
Yeah.
everything's worse at night.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah. The enemy runs rampant at night,
Yeah.
but we'll get to that
Yeah,
later.
we'll get to that later.
Is the like lashing out at people, would that fit into the anxiety part of stuff?
It can.
So I notice sometimes
It
in my
can.
own life, like if I'm stressed out about something and I'm feeling that, I'm gonna, if somebody asks me something, I'm,
Yeah.
leave me alone. I need to stop.
Irritability.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'd call that irritability, and that can be both
Gotcha.
depression or anxiety, and it can be a lot of other things too. So
Yes, true.
A lot of these really overlap just with mental health in general.
Yeah.
And but there are a multitude of anxiety disorder diagnoses.
Gotcha.
Some are mild, some are very severe. Most of them have that in there.
Yep.
Some irritability. So
Okay. And then what
Yeah.
about depression?
Yeah. So depression is going to look much more exactly like what the word sounds like, somebody being deflated.
Okay.
So like a depressed person.
Yep.
So the Bible talks about hope deferred makes the heart sick, right? It's Proverbs 13:12 to be exact. And so it's exactly that. It's this lack of hope. It's this like dark feeling. It's this like nothing feels right. There's like can be a weird dissociative feeling with depression. And again, it depends on mild versus severe. Severe can get very bad. That's when you can get those thoughts of hurting yourself or somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's when please see a professional to get help with that. But yeah, depression and anxiety both have a range. The sleep issue, the isolation is so big with depression. So isolation because you kind of just don't feel like it. Lack of motivation is also humongous with depression because you're tired, like you've got nothing left inside.
Yeah.
So I kind of see depression as like you're kind of frozen in an ice block.
Yep.
Yeah.
And healing it is like a thawing
Yeah.
of that.
I had a lot of years where my mom would try and like talk to me about like, you know, maybe you are depressed, and I'd be like, I'm not depressed. I'm not sad about anything. Like I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm not depressed. But at the same time, it was the lack of motivation and the just like, I'm sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
I can't get up.
Yeah.
I can't make myself move. I want to be productive. I'm stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad that you said that because like a big part of depression also is not enjoying the things you once enjoyed.
Yeah.
That's huge. So all those that I just said are like the top guys. Again, just like anxiety, there are a slew of other things that are involved in that. But those are like the big flags that most people get with it. But really just not enjoying the things you always did. And just that, just feeling like you got cement on your feet.
Yeah.
And fatigue also can be a big part of depression.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like a lot of those like minor things have been normalized.
Yes.
Like
Everybody's
the
got a certain
productivity
amount of
or
it.
the whatever. And so like we were talking about in the last episode, it's way better if you can like catch it early and go see someone early on rather than when it's putting a wrench in your life.
Yep.
But a lot of those things we just deem as that's just life. Like I'm just tired, or
Everybody feels like that.
Yeah.
You're fine.
And you have to go, is there a reason I'm just tired?
Yes.
If you're working 72 hours a week and like it's a really hard job, obviously you're going to feel fatigued and other things.
Yeah. You don't want to jump to, it's depression when it is, there are other things.
Yeah. So, but we also have to understand that depression isn't just I'm sad.
Yeah.
And that, again, a lot of people function in anxiety and like go, oh, yeah, you look like an anxious person. But depression is such a hidden thing. And because like most people who've never experienced depression have no clue. They just think, oh, you're sad. Like, think about happy things. You'll be all right. And that's not what depression is.
No.
So depression is a part, or sadness is a part of depression, but it isn't depression.
Yeah.
It's just a piece.
And I think there can be a fear of the word, but honestly, when I was like diagnosed, like this is the thing, I found that freeing because this is a thing. I get to call it by its name, and I get to call that out in Christ, and it can be overcome. But so then I lost where I was at.
the big doozy.
Yeah. Is it sinful?
Okay.
Anxiety and depression. Is
Anxiety
it sin?
and depression. Is it sin? I think sometimes it can be,
Yep.
and sometimes no.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about why.
Please expand.
And so,
Let's hit the when it can and when it can't.
when it can and when it can't. Okay, so I think again we have to go to the root of it. Is your depression because you have a physical illness?
Yeah.
Do you have gut issues? Because most of your serotonin, which is the feel good
Yep.
neurotransmitter, is made in your gut. So if you've got gut issues, you're not creating that serotonin. You're gonna feel depressed, and it has nothing to do with you're being sinful or whatever,
mental
not
or
trusting
spiritual,
God or whatever. It has nothing
Body's
to do
just
with
off.
that. Yeah. So there are times when the body physically is off and it can cause these depressive symptoms. there are times when, again, I said before, maybe we've been deeply traumatized, and that trauma is not something we did. It's not our fault. It's something that's been done to us. And that can come up and come over you because your body is trying to protect itself all the time. And then too much of that, your body just gets tired and kind of deflates. And so is that a sin? I don't think so, but we need help with that. Then we have to go to, again, what I said in the other video when we talk about, is the root of your anxiety just, I can't control this situation. I can't let this go. I can't forgive this person. I can't, you know, I'm only leaning on my own understanding of it. I don't want to hand this over to the Lord and trust what he has to give me. Now that, because he says, I don't know, we talk about, is it a sin? When he says not to do something,
yes.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
I guess I'll ask that part, right? That's the thinker.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because he says, do not fear so many times.
Yeah. Cast all your anxiety on him. Like we're instructed over and over.
Yeah.
To not.
Yeah. And in all honesty, anxiety was kind of given as a good thing because it's a fight or flight response.
Right.
And so, but it's when we rely on that, like that there's so much of that. And it talks about like, he didn't give us that spirit of fear. He gave us power, love, and a sound mind.
Yep.
And so again, it's that exchange. So I think the root of it depends on whether it can be, and that's something you have to take before him.
Yeah.
And so,
and
ask
it's
him.
fair to say that.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I can't decide whether your anxiety or depression is a sinful thing. God has to let you know about that.
Yeah.
That is a fantastic answer.
Yeah.
I'm just
She
saying.
explained that a lot better than I would. So I'm glad that you took that.
It's a big question I get a lot.
So what are our next steps? Let's say that you're watching this and you feel like that kind of sounds like me or something that I've been dealing with. What can we do with that now?
Yeah. So if you're watching this and you feel like, oh, a lot of those things are happening to me, I'm feeling those things. Again, take that to the Lord, talk to him about it, and see what he says. And if that is even too overwhelming, or you don't even know where to start there, you can talk to your pastor.
Yep.
You can talk to your life group leader. You can talk to somebody that is walking in life alongside you, and they can kind of help you with that. Or you can find actual resources. Find a therapist. Find you know, other resources that will help you. Even like as simple as you don't even have to go, sometimes you don't have to go to a regular therapist. Sometimes we just need to go to like a group therapy session or something, like find other people that are also struggling, and that can help us. Like it just depends on your situation. Every person is different.
Yeah. And now they have therapy options where you can find a therapist online. I know I call with my therapist. I love that I can be laying in my bed on a Friday morning and talk to her, and I didn't have to go to the office. So when talking about like what to do, let's hit on real quick on antidepressants.
Sure.
It's a topic that has to do with this. Are they okay? I mean,
Jenna loves to ask me loaded questions.
I do. I love Katrina's answers.
Okay, so I cannot decide for you if they are okay. I think that they can be helpful and they can be hurtful.
Okay.
So I think, again, all of this is like dependent on the person, because sometimes, so the way that an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety type SSRI can work is it takes, this is kind of a hard thing, but it basically is a blanket over your amygdala, which is, your amygdala is that emotion center.
So, is that in your brain?
It is in your brain.
This is a dumb question.
No, you need to see. Sometimes professionals don't know, like when people don't know.
Just wanted to make sure it was in your brain.
It is.
It's not like in your stomach or something.
It's not, but that's a good question. Yes, it is in your brain.
That's not the thing at the back of your throat.
And so what happens is when we have, especially anxiety, our prefrontal cortex, which is also in your brain.
Okay.
That is the reason.
I knew that one was there.
Yeah, that's the reason and ration center, the part that tells you everything's actually fine, you're okay, comes offline. You become offline. So what an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety will do is it'll kind of just rest a blanket on top of your amygdala and act like your prefrontal cortex. it is not a healing tool.
No.
It will not heal your anxiety or depression, but it can help you push through
Yes.
a little bit to even focus on the tools to help.
Yep.
So for some people, that is so helpful.
Yep.
That is so helpful. And for some people, they react really poorly
Yeah.
and they become suicidal, or they become, to a place where they think worse thoughts than before, or
Yep.
more anxious or more depressed. So you have to work with your doctor
Yeah.
on that and
Yeah.
find a professional to
Yeah.
help you with that
Yep.
specific thing. And so it can be helpful. I would not lean on it for healing, though.
No. And that's
Like,
the
you
problem I have with it. Yeah.
You
go
have
ahead.
to be using like multiple things. when
Yes.
you're, like
Yeah.
you can't just lean on your therapist. You can't just lean on antidepressants. Like
Yeah.
you gotta have God, and then these are tools.
Yeah.
So,
It's
like,
a tool.
Yeah.
That's the
At-
thing that drives me crazy is when people are like, I know people who have been prescribed an antidepressant by their doctor, and they're not seeing a therapist. They're not
Right.
in, talking to
Yeah.
their doctor.
See, but
and
like
then it's
for
like,
me,
ugh.
my doctor did prescribe me an anti-anxiety medicine.
Yeah.
That's what got me to the point where I was willing to see
To
a
go to
therapist.
someone?
Like before
Okay.
that, I was too
Yeah.
not
Okay.
not
Yeah.
there
So I
to
was in
even
therapy for a year before I started an antidepressant. And so that's,
Yeah.
I like that you have the
It can go
different
either way.
option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I just wasn't like I was in
That
that place
got
where
you
like
to that place.
I'd just rather like sit on the couch and watch
Yeah.
paint dry.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, and this is an unpopular opinion, so
Yeah.
unpopular opinion
Yeah.
alert.
Do it.
That it, there are actual multiple ways and more natural things
Yep.
Yeah,
that are
totally.
even better
Yeah.
than antidepressants.
Katrina's the crunchy queen.
I
Crunchy queen.
I am.
It's
but-
okay.
But
Which we like.
Like they're
We need to know those
honestly,
things.
scientifically, exercise has been proven to be better
Yes.
than an antidepressant.
Oh, getting outside and taking a walk. That's something I talk about with my counselor often.
Yeah, but with depression, our motivation is gone, right? So getting out of the house is really, really tough.
It's hard to make those healthy choices for yourself when you're in that deep spot.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And motivation is not going to spontaneously come back.
No, you're not
You
going
have
to
to
just
just
power
dang
through
it.
do
it.
the thing. You just have to do the thing until it feels better. That's
Yep.
kind of how that is. And it's really hard to do that. So I'm not discrediting that. And
No.
that can be where antidepressants for a short time
Or
can be
something.
very helpful too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I'm gonna
Cool.
change the subject just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about so like you notice some of these things in somebody else's that you're close to or somebody else's life?
Yeah.
Is it acceptable to like be like
You
need
sound
to
like
see a
you're depressed. You should go to a
therapist,
therapist.
like
Yeah.
that's a really touchy thing.
yeah.
But or do they have to come to that conclusion themselves?
How do you
and
get someone help? when-
Want it?
Yes. So a person who doesn't want therapy that comes to therapy will most likely either be in therapy for 5 years and nothing happens, or they won't ever stay. They'll just
Yeah.
quit really early. So you can encourage them that it would be helpful, or
Yeah.
even ask like, hey, like, is there a reason you're not?
Yeah.
Because then they can actually like defend themselves a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
Because people can get very defensive when you're like, you need to see a therapist. They're like,
Yeah.
you need to see a therapist. And,
Right? Like it doesn't feel like there's no
yeah.
way that
No.
would feel good.
yeah, and that those defenses come up because they go, something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we don't want to admit that a lot of the
No.
time. We want to get through it ourselves and all that stuff. And so,
Yeah.
like actually just coming to them in love and as
Yeah.
a friend and saying, you don't look that okay. Like,
Yeah.
how can I help you get help with this? And
Yeah.
what's stopping you from doing it? And then they might say, I don't believe in that stuff or whatever.
Yes,
Like,
and then
you
that's a
can-
different thing. Yeah.
You can go from there and see what happens.
Yeah.
If they just say, I'm scared,
Yeah.
walk with them in it,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
if you know what the therapy road is. Cause
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
you know, so
And if you don't know how to start that conversation, I always think you have more power with questions than you do with
Yes.
statements. They're just like,
that is,
have you ever thought about talking to someone?
yeah, that's what therapy is. We just
Yep.
ask questions.
You ask a set of questions and then
we
we
just
talk.
ask questions until you get to your own epiphany.
My therapist said
love that.
10 sentences to me, and I walk out of there crying my eyes out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Questions are disarming. So
Yep.
it's helpful.
Okay. So that's what we have for this episode. We're gonna do another one. So be on the lookout. We're not done talking about this topic yet, but join us in the chat.
Yeah.
We've started some conversations, and we'd love for you to join in. So we'll see you next time.
Yeah, keep it going. Bye.
This has been another episode of the Beyond Sunday podcast. And don't forget, like, share, and subscribe.